Good afternoon, Shaky SoCal 2Old4Forza, and this is the track guide for TNT 41 and the Honda CRX, week 4, race 2. We're going to be heading to. Yep, are we back? Can you hear me now? Yeah, every now and then, sometimes I get online, and even though the headset's working, all of a sudden it's like the Xbox needs to reset and things cut out for a second. So, plug your ears for a moment. Okay. This is just making sure that the mic. Weird thing with the Xbox and Twitch, if I don't kind of try and unplug and replug in the headset, sometimes then what I'm talking about gets delayed. Which the slow lap usually isn't an issue, but then the during the race, I'm reacting to stuff a second or two after it's happened. But anyhow, again, uh, week week 4, race 2, Prague full circuit reverse in the Honda CRX. So again, same format as always. I'll do an outlap. I'll take a slow lap around and kind of. I differ a little bit from what the suggested line shows, and so I want to kind of point some of that out. How this will work when we actually get in the race, we'll find out later. And then I'll do a mock race against the AI just to get some traffic to work through where I might, what passing situations there might be. Again, these cars are very equal, so in when we're racing, it's very equal compared to the AI. But anyhow, I'm talking too much again. Let me go back. Because I think for the slow lap and the track guide, I like just manual. Easier if I have to back up. So, nope, not start race. Test drive. Alright, so I'm just going to try and talk as I'm doing the fast laps. Coming down the front stretch, look at the light poles here. This last set of 3, that's where I'm turning in, and I'm actually going to hug very much the inside past the red X's. Downshift to third. So note the line that I'm taking there. That was almost a dirty lap. Bring it out here. Coming into the chicane of death, just crack the throttle to help the car turn. Third gear, up to fourth. Full throttle through here. Watch the bump. Transitioning onto the bridge. Depending on how much steering you have in, that could upset you guys on the wheel. Fifth gear. See, the other place I take a very different line than suggested. Heavy braking, apex off, apex out, full throttle. You can get on that inside curve a little bit. That's way more than I really want to. We'll talk about that in a little bit here. Coming down this next curve, look for the pylon, the bollards on the left, downshift to third, hug the inside, don't go all the way out, and roll back into the throttle. Probably a little late on the second half of that. Ease off the throttle here, not really a lot of braking, just ease off. Start rolling back in late. This is usually the line I take, is I hug the inside here over the hill, inside, straighten it there. I stay very wide, turn in halfway between that last banner and the light pole, and there's my apex as I hit the wall. Again, I can't talk and drive at the same time, so ease off the throttle, fully back on by that light pole. Bring it all the way out to the wall, don't hit the wall. As I upshift, I'm going to get out of the throttle and back on to help keep the car in the groove. A little bit late there. Down the hill, cut it inside here, and I aim for the curb. I want to differ from the line again. Brake at the first banner, heavy braking, down to third, release the crosswalk, keep it inside, full throttle. Back out across the bridge. And keep it to the left, start finish. So let's talk through that. So as I was going through, so where I'm turning in, so you've got these nice light posts here, lamps. So it's the last one here on the left side is kind of what I'm looking at. I'm kind of using as my turn-in point. Now this is where, and actually this is the other thing I want to do, just because it happens enough on this track that I want to point it out, and I'm going to qualify it. This is what I'm doing. not necessarily, this may not necessarily be the fastest way to around the track. Um, and I may even have to make adjustments in the race because again, these cars race very close together, and so some things I can do on my own or against the AI may not work on Thursday. So I'll find that out, during practice on Tuesday night. So let me go to assist. I'm actually going to turn the full braking line on, just so we have that as the reference, so I can makes it easier for me to point out where I'm differing. So you see where the you see the suggested line where it wants you to be, and where I'm at setting up for turn one. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a wider entry and a narrow exit. So as I turn in, I'm aiming. You can see the two signs there with the red X's. That's kind of what I'm using to gauge where the apex is for me. So I'll cross over the suggested line. I'm going to be on the inside, passing those two X's, and my braking then. So I'm kind of now set up kind of inside, pointed kind of straight towards the back of the corner there. I'm going to brake as I hit this. I wouldn't call it a crosswalk, but I guess it's kind of like the transition on the town square here in front of the cathedral. So as I hit this transition, this is where I'm going to brake. So fourth gear, fifth gear, I'm going down to third. I'm going to brake in a straight line, and this is where I'm going to. So I instead of being way out wide and then diving in, um, I tend to take it more of a narrow, kind of then pop out late and then turn in. Again, I don't know if it'll be any quicker or not. So I may have to make adjustments in the race. The one danger to this line, and this one I'm even out a little bit further than probably I will be. The one advantage of this line is if I'm following somebody close, turning in early and kind of getting straight in, taking that narrow entry might close some of that distance a little bit, and I might barely be alongside. But then the problem is I'm far enough inside where if someone's taking that normal line out that's on the suggested line, I'm going to be in a blind spot. This is a very, we're going to run into this at Long Beach, though it's not as, I don't think it's as heinous as this. This is a very wide entry into a very narrow exit. And so, just be careful, how far you go outside of somebody's vision. If you're following someone, you take the narrow line and you can't see them, they can't see you either. So you're going to have to like scream and yell and like, I'm on your inside, I'm on your inside. But again, what I'll be doing is I'll be downshift into third, and then I'll take it. And so here's here's the crossover point. So if I do have some inside position, really to carry any speed out, you can clip that inside curbing a little bit. You don't want to really get on it because you will get a time penalty. But again, because this is the angle I'm hitting this at compared to where the suggested line is, to maintain any sort of speed, I have to go wide. I can't. If I have to compromise and compromise the exit, and it's going to kill my speed heading down the death chicane. So again, kind of gauge that. If you see someone taking that way inside line, try and make that decision. Are they going to try and maintain momentum, go wide out, and try the crossover and exit, and see if you can get by them before the chicane, or maybe if it looks like they're going to leave you room on the outside, you're probably going to have the room to then just carry that outside line through. So again, I think at least the way this car is, anything, if you can get the other guy to break their momentum, you should be able to get by. But anyhow, this is the line I take through. So that I'll get back on the throttle here in third gear. I'll bring it out all the way out to the edge. I'll probably straddle this line as much as it'll let me, so that I can line up for, and again, I call this is the chicane of death. And because we have race ranks on, we can't just go hopping over the curbing. So again, I'm setting up a little bit wider than what the line suggests, and I'm using this first tire barrier here as kind of the visual, like, when do I let off? And so as I'm passing that first orange barrier, I may even get a little bit wider out here. I'm going to crack the throttle. If I do it right, I'm just going to be barely, again, just cracking the throttle enough to give the front tires that little more, again, since it's front wheel drive, this car's not going to accelerate and steer well simultaneously. You got to one or the other. So I'm going to crack the throttle a little bit, just to give the fronts a little more grip and turn in. And still in third gear, and if I do it right, it'll probably be, you can use that inside curbing a little bit, try and get it across the middle. Same thing here. Once you pass that one, usually then I'll be, getting back to full throttle. I might come out, you might scrape the wall a little bit. Just a light scrape probably won't hurt you too much. It might compromise your speed a little bit. But then as soon as you're out of that chicane, up to fourth. And then this is pretty easy through here, fourth gear. Flat out, flat out, flat out, fourth gear. Right about here, as you're crossing the light rail, and especially right here, there's a nasty bump in here. You'll feel it. I feel it in the controller. What I'm finding is if you're fighting and you've got a lot of steering, when you hit that bump, it's going to wiggle the car a little bit. So try and minimize your steering through here as you're getting onto the bridge. That should negate any unsettling that the bump will do. But just know that there's a pretty nasty bump here. I don't think it's as bad as it used to be. Like Forza 6, I remember we were racing hot hatches here, and several of us got caught out by it going across there. There might be a little smaller run right there. But onto the bridge, still fourth gear. I'll probably put it up to fifth, somewhere about halfway, 2/3 of the way across. And now we're hitting to the next place where I differ a little bit from the braking line. Again, this is what I'm doing. I'm not saying this is faster. This is just what I'm doing. You can see how the braking line kind of goes. It'll when we get there, it'll be clear. It's a little bit wider of an entry, and you can kind of see the angle I'm taking. I'm almost aiming to be right on the inside of the curb at that second. You can kind of see like the red sign with the white dash on it. Don't know what that means, but like I don't know if that's stop or no parking or whatever. But it's the further one out that's in the bright sun. That's kind of where I'm aiming for. My braking point is I'm going to kind of come straight in here, and it's right where this crosswalk is. And for me, it's a heavy braking down. Let's see, I'll be in fifth gear down to fourth. Heavy brake, and I'm going to release the brake right about. It's hard to describe, but right about here, just past the apex. This part of this curb, it crests a little bit. So you'll crest over it, and there's like a little dip here. When I feel the car get into that dip is when I'm coming off the brakes and rolling back into the throttle. And if I do it right, then I'm just going to barely bring it out, and then hit this apex, cross back over what the suggested line is. I may drift all the way out here, but I'll be full throttle, and then through this corner into the tunnel of love, or the tunnel of Prague. So that's the line I take through there. Again, we'll see in the race if is any better or worse than the line the game suggests. Heading down in this next hairpin, I'm using the bollards here on the left side as the braking point, or you can say it's the red sign right there, or there's a couple landmarks here that you can probably use as reference if somebody decides they want to take the bollards out. So let's see, still in fourth gear at this point. This is down to a third gear. This is another place I differ from the braking line. I think it's that I think I can minimize distance without compromising momentum. So I'm going to hug the inside here. Only bring the car maybe out about to where the light rail tracks are, and then immediately dive it in. If I do it right, dive it in and really get back on the throttle. Again, I think we'll have different exits out of here. But again, the whole key is once you get through the first part, get back to full throttle as quick as you can, and carry that momentum out of the corner. On this next one, you really don't need to brake at all. Maybe just a quick brush if you really mess it up. And it's just feathering the throttle. And usually as I'm through the inside, it's usually somewhere, let me back it up here a second. Usually where I'm really trying to get back on full throttle is somewhere with that sign, that Prague sign right there. Somewhere between there, about halfway between there, and then this next pillar. You should be able to get back to full throttle. And again, I usually then just carry carry speed out all the way out here. And then I'll cut across. And I'll hug the outside. And again, if you notice the braking line, the game says, hey, you can be all the way to the inside and carry that through. I'm not. I like being all the way to the outside in this. Really open this corner up so I can hold full throttle. My turn-in point, if I was in a higher class car, come on, I'm stuck in the wall. Come on, back up. Gotta show off some stuff here. So, higher class cars, turn-in is usually for me just as I pass that banner right there on the right side. But for this one, since we're a little bit slower, it's going to be about halfway between passing that banner and this next light pole. So it's probably about here. I'll start turning in. And now for me, the apex of this corner, so you can see I just passed, you can see the next banner, light pole with the banner on the left side there on the inside of the corner. It's not that one, it's the one just past it. But I'd say somewhere the later, if you can get the second one, great. I would say halfway between both of them, that's probably about where I'm apexing, lap over lap. So still full throttle, shouldn't really need to get off the throttle. So apex about here. Oh, I lost my mirror. Let the car come out. I may not use all the road on the way out. And then I'm going to start bringing the car back across to the left side. Now I'm using this first banner here on the left as a turn-in point. I'm going to start to turn the car in. And then as I pass this next set of banners, that's where I'm going to lift. If I do it right, I won't come all the way out of the throttle, but again, it's just coming out enough. It'll give the car a little bit more steering, a little bit more turn-in. Back end might slip a little bit, but the whole idea is just to get the car turned enough to roll back into the, to get the car in, get it to the inside and roll back into the throttle right about here. Right about before you get to this wall. If I do it right, should be able to roll back into the full throttle, hug in the inside, let the car carry its momentum out. I'll probably scrape this wall a number of times during the race, but if you think you're going to scrape that wall, just quick off and on of the throttle. Again, it gives you that little bit of steering. It should correct the car here. Heading down into this next turn, you can see that this just line already has it going, down, kind of cutting across and down in. It's not the line I normally take. I tend to be a little bit wider out at this point, maybe about halfway going straight into the middle of the bridge. In third gear, I think third gear, fourth, but you'll be at the top of the rev range right about here. This is where I will, I'll do a little trick here, at least I'll call it a trick. You're going to have to upshift. Now, for me using manual with clutch, one thing I know is at least for me, I can't floor it and keep the throttle pinned all the way down the hill. Again, you're not going to get any help from the banking until, the braking line is actually pretty good. When the braking line goes yellow, you can kind of say right at about there that's where the banking is going to help get the car set on the way out. But you're not going to be able to be full throttle all the way down the hill. So usually what I do is when I'm upshifting to the next gear, which I think is, I'm losing track of what gear I'm in. It's either I'm in third going to fourth or fourth going to fifth. I think I'm third going into fourth. What I'm going to do is, as I do the upshift with manual with clutch, I'm actually going to release the throttle and immediately roll back in. So it's kind of like a off and on. And usually that's enough to break the momentum of the car so that it'll get set into the groove here. It's about right about here is where the car will set. And then I should just be able to follow the line all the way out. Then down the hill, over the crest. And then I'll usually apex there. And then I'm going to aim for this setting up for this last corner. I'm actually going to aim for this curbing here on the inside and kind of use that to help angle me kind of straight towards, if you take your eyes and you see the city of Prague, and I'm pointing this out, I can consciously say I'm not really looking at it, but city of Prague, but then if you look just up and to the left a little bit, you can kind of see like the little dome tower there. So I'm kind of trying to point there, but I'm also looking at the very first banner on the left side. So I'm just trying to get lined up to where, because you can't see it because it's just over the crest of where the first apex for this last corner is. So I'm still going to be full throttle at this point, fifth gear. And as I get to this first banner on the left side, that's where I'm going to brake. Heavy braking in a straight line down to third gear. And if I do this right, I should be able to release the brakes right as I'm getting to this crosswalk. And you can see I've diamonded my way to the apex here. And again, I'm way different than what the outside line is suggesting. Release here, get the car turned a little bit, might feel the back end. And again, as I'm releasing the brakes, and it's all about keeping the rear end in check, I'm going to probably start rolling back in the throttle a little bit just to get a little weight on the rear. It's not completely sliding around, because the back end's probably going to protest a little bit. But the second car gets set, which will probably be about here, you notice I'm still kind of inside of the suggested line. I'm going to nail the throttle, third gear, and then I'm going to carry the momentum out there. Up to fourth, and then up to fifth. So that's how I approach Prague. Again, I'm using different. I think this track more than most of the others we're racing this season. I'm really differing the line that is suggested, and part of it's just bad habits on my part, maybe. But we'll see. Proof will be in the pudding when I get into practice next week on Tuesday. I'll be able to kind of experiment, hopefully, with some of you guys, or run some laps in traffic to kind of see, do these lines work? Are you guys outrunning me or being on the regular line? We'll find out. It's kind of doing this in isolation. But that's a lap of Prague. That's how I approach it. So I'm going to get out of here. But first off, let's go ahead and reset my assists. No, braking only. Even though I don't follow it most of the time. We'll go back to manual with clutch and fuel and tires. Let's go ahead and finish the test drive. Okay, so what we're going to do is I am going to tweak the race setup a little bit, because I did a practice race earlier, and the AI, because of the death chicane, are really, I don't want to say awful, but yeah, we'll do that. So we're going to give these guys about a bit more of a head start, because they're going to slow each other up in the chicane. I'm usually taking that a lot quicker, but same cars, same buckets. I'm thinking we'll see what the end timer is like. I'm thinking it's going to be 14, 15 laps probably. Thankfully, no rain. Thankfully, no night. Hopefully, it should be a fun race. So let me go ahead and set that, and let's go ahead and do a test race. Let's see what we can do. Nice and echoey on the buildings. That's that. But I thought those guys should have gone by now. So we'll see how this works. So again, this track guide, just because I do very different things, it may not be of any help to you guys. But again, gives you some options to go off of. Let's see what we can do. That's right, manual with clutch. Right, only fourth gear on the first lap. Stay out, lift a little bit, turn in. Ooh, yeah. So you can see, the rear tire is going to take quite a long time to get up to temperature there on the graphic. So that chicane is going to be a little dicey on the first lap. Well, it's going to be dicey every lap, but especially the first one. So that inside curbing right there, you can get. I would say try and stay off of it. If you brush it, it'll move the car a little bit. And you can kind of cross on it, but it's risky as far as time penalties. So if you can stay off that inside curbing, that would be probably a good thing. Again, I'm not really for that corner. I'm just kind of rolling out of the throttle. I'm not trying to snap out of the throttle to get the back of the car to rotate. I just want to figure out how much do I need to roll out of the throttle to get the car to turn in nicely. So last turn here. And I think I like third gear. I mean, you're right at the top of third when you go into that chicane. I haven't really ever thought about doing it in fourth because I think I like having the car high up in the rev range because then again, any throttle adjustment, helps. The car's kind of more on its toes. And again, for some of these long corners, if you think the car is pushing, just crack the throttle a little bit. Should bring the car back in line. Ooh, that was a little close to the wall there. A little wide, that's all right. A little bit late for that. I'm kind of complaining too much. The other consequence of the line that I take through turn one is if I happen to be heading into one and somebody's exiting the pits, I got to be careful. That's the thing I won't necessarily have to worry about in the race on Thursday is, again, the AI lower in the corners. Like you guys will be. That was a little unexpected. Excuse me. And again, that's the other danger with that turn. They're taking that extreme inside line. Someone's wide, you know, there's a crossover point late on exit. You can see I got a little bit on that inside curb, and it moved the car a little bit. Oh, what was that? Whoa, 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 whoa. Sorry. I'm going to get forced wide here. Yeah, that's actually a good example of what might happen in the race where, you know, the roles reverse there a little bit. Excuse me. Where, you know, I'm the AI was me in that sense, and then I'm one of, you know, one of you guys on the outside line where you have that convergence point. So watch out for that. I did I mention that usually these races there's some questionable racecraft? On my calculations, that would have been at least 2 seconds for the pass. outside of track limits, but then I'm sure that penalty there, I'd imagine, would be pretty big, given how much speed you carry through there. Didn't time that right to do the crossover. Okay, fourth, fifth. I'm going to set up a little bit wide here just so I have this inside. Oh, that's way inside. Excuse me. Yeah, there you go. So I was forced way inside through that corner and hit the bump. The back of the car kicked out a little bit. Again, another kind of wide entry into a narrow exit. See some side swiping there too. Laps. I'll pit at the end of lap 7. Box flat. Oh, excuse me. A little wider there than I need it to be. So pit in, pit out for Prague. Very, very short pit lane, very easy in, and a risky out. Risky just of how of position the car is in when the game releases you. I think it's one of those you're going to have to do a little bit of steering as soon as you get released so that you don't hit the wall. I think it's worse. The pit lane exit's worse going the other direction. But yeah, just be mindful of what, when you're getting back on. So yeah, you're going to have to steer a little bit left and then just hug the inside. Bring the car out a little bit, third gear, and you're back out. Tires, wiggly rear end. I think this is one of Gizzy's favorite tracks to race at. Just he has kind of a list of the tracks in Forza that he calls high risk, high reward tracks. So when I was racing with them in the Sunday series, this Prague showed up a lot. Yeah, this is a fun track. Put it this way, I like it better than I like Bernese. Thank you. I hope to rotate the car a little bit there. And of course, be wide. Ah! What if this was the same car I had that issue with before? Go back and look through the replay. Nice thing is that this car does have it's slow enough and it has enough grip that it is possible to do some side-by-side racing so long as you guys respect where each other are racing at. A little narrow there, so I had to get out of the throttle. Whoop, I'm still out there and I'm not paying attention to where I'm going. Leave a little room there just in case. Kind of there. See, even there, it just got that little bit out of the groove and I went into the wall. I don't think I won't get him for the braking, but I'll probably try and make the pass at the hairpin just past the tunnel. This is going to leave that completely open for me on the inside. Thank you. Know if the guy in the lead still needs to pit or not. A little wide. Back in the gas. And go. That's the other thing too, is if you find that you've missed the ideal line and you're pushing it wide a little bit, sometimes just suck it up, just get back on the throttle and start building the momentum back up. Just work with it. I'm letting the car drift a little too wide now. At least a little wider than my intent. I don't know, is that for lap time? It did a little bit. Almost went down to third. Probably cost me a couple of tenths. Not a ton. Turning a little early and couldn't get quite back to full throttle when I wanted. Totally blew that corner. Almost that track. I am having to just do a slight lift on the throttle to help get the car through that corner. That's going to cost me a tenth. A little too much speed in, and then just the car pushed wide, and it's like, all right, I give up. Just going to get back into the throttle and salvage what I can. Oh, I'm still within. Hurt me as much as I thought it was going to. You can get onto the sidewalk here on the bridge, but I think it is possible to go too far and get a time penalty. Try it in fourth for a lap. The car just feels like it's wow. I'm gonna try that again. Maybe fourth is better through the chicane. Yeah, a little too much speed in. Hopefully it didn't cost me more than 4/10. See what we get. Then we'll try fourth gear through the chicane one more time. Yeah, I lost 3/10 there. Alright. Let's try fourth gear through the chicane. Maybe I'm wrong. I think the car, because you're carrying, well, let's just see what happens. Get that as close as you dare. Down a little bit. Well, then again, I am going against the previous lap, so... Okay, let's see if we go any quicker. I even forget what the previous lap was, so... 29. That is Prague. So probably when I post this in the chat, I'll make reference that, yeah, fourth gear actually might be better for the death chicane. But again, I think that'll be up to personal preference. Third gear is, I think, the more conservative approach. If you want to be a bit riskier, you can try fourth and take advantage of then having more torque coming out of the chicane. But again, 15 laps, excuse me, 36 minutes. Yeah, we'll see. 14, 15 laps maybe is my guess when you practice, but there you go. So that is Prague Reverse in the Honda CRX. Hope you guys have a great weekend. We'll see you in practice next week and the race on Thursday, and happy racing.